You gotta come celebrate the best tacos in Texas at the Texas Monthly Taco Fest on June 7th at Discovery Green. You'll get to sample some of the best taquerias around as appointed by the one and only Texas Monthly Taco Editor. This celebration of the 50 best tacos in Texas is gonna feature live music, drinks, and my favorite part, all the tacos you can handle and more. Get your tickets now at texasmonthly.com/tacofest. Need a fun free indoor activity? Well, the Contemporary Arts Museum has you covered with its new exhibition, Out of Stock. This inspiring exhibit features work from Houston teens and was curated and created by CAM's 14th Teen Council. The artwork really makes you think and reflect on big ideas like consumerism and identity. Out of Stock is made by teens, but everyone will enjoy it. The exhibit is running now until October 19th, so head to camh.org to learn more. And don't forget, CAM is always free. I'll see you there. Today on CityCast Houston, long live the king. The RenFest king, that is. Plus, do Houstonians really want to live here? It's Friday, so I'm breaking down the biggest news of the week with breaking news reporter for the Texas Newsroom, Lucio Vasquez, and executive producer, Laura Isensee. After today's conversation, we have a chat sponsored by the Village School about why families are making the switch to private school, plus a tip from today's sponsor, Comic Palooza. Stick around to learn more. It's Friday, May 23rd. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Lucio, how are you, man? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, man. I'm doing well.
And Laura, how are you?
Oh, it's been a long week, but we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and let's start because King George has passed away. The man behind the RenFest. This was huge news, and there are so many layers to unpack here. You've been following this. Can you break it all down for us?
Yeah, if you've missed it, we've been following it in our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, BTW. If you haven't subscribed, go to our show notes and subscribe because we've been keeping everyone updated. But yeah, the big news of the week is that George Floyd, also known as King George, as you said, he was found dead in his home in Todd Mission, which is a town in Grimes County. And as of right now, as of this taping, we don't know the cause of death. Several law enforcement agencies are investigating that, including the Texas Rangers. There's no threat to public harm here, but his death is really a surprise. It comes at a really interesting time because the festival and Coulomb himself have been tied up in this years-long legal drama about the future of the Texas Renaissance Festival. And also, the Ren Fair is just this cultural icon. It's this major attraction, rite of passage. And so it is a really big moment for people who, follow the fair. And so a lot of people are talking about this.
Yeah. And this is big because HBO actually did a documentary on everything that's been happening at RenFest, and there was a lot of drama with that. I tried watching it. Lucio, did you give it a watch? I couldn't, I watched the first episode and I was so disgusted by everything that was happening there. I couldn't finish it.
I never got a chance to watch it. I still want to, but it's one of those things that just kind of slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I haven't watched it either. I did watch the trailer, and the trailer, it kind of feels like Succession, but set inside a medieval period piece. Everybody's like throwing around swords and jousting, but it does give you the flavor of the Texas Renaissance Fair, which, again, Coulomb, he founded this over 50 years ago. He's been the founder, the leader, the dreamer, the doer. For this festival, larger than life character, whether you like him or not. And that documentary didn't really paint him in the most positive light.
Not at all.
He was kind of crass. He was the subject of other lawsuits. The one I mentioned earlier was about the property at the festival, but also several former employees accused him of sexual harassment. One of them even said that she was forced to look at dating sites as one of her job duties for him. So he is this really controversial figure. And I think the two big questions that we're following is what happened? How did he die? He was 87, so he was up in years, but just coming on the tails of the latest in this legal drama where he was ordered to sell the property. He was ordered to pay over $20 million in damage because of this
Wow.
lawsuit. So what happened to him? And then what happens to the festival? The future owner says they're going to keep it going. But again, I think one of the quotes in the trailer of that doc is that, there is no RenFest without King George. It doesn't go on without him. So now we're going to really find out, does it go on without King George, for better or for worse?
It's really interesting, too, because he just lost his reelection bid for Todd Mission, right? The small town.
Yeah. He had been mayor of Todd Mission since 1982.
What? So it's like Todd Mission where the festival is? Is that basically RenFest, or is that a separate place?
No, that's basically RenFest.
Okay, so he was the mayor of his own little town / festival area. He lost re-election for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 100 people, right?
Yeah, it's pretty tiny. Population 121, according to the 2020 census.
Wow.
But I don't know. Have y'all ever gone to Ren Fair? Was this a rite of passage for you?
It wasn't for me. How about you, Lucio?
Oh, really? I'm sorry, you have gone before, right, Raheel?
No, I've never gone.
Oh, you've never been?
Oh my gosh, Raheel, I'm about to hang up.
It's one of those things that my school never took us. I know what it is and I see it from afar, but I've never made the trip out there. It's exciting, it's cool, but not enough for me to go dress up and head out there.
I get it. I mean, you and I are just two different people, and that's okay.
Do you dress up, Lucio?
Yeah.
Oh
sure.
gosh, that's simultaneously asking me. I'm inching towards it, right? Every year I go, which is not every year, consecutively, but I'll put on a little piece of, something every time I go, right? Just to kind of inch towards it. I have such a appreciation, for cosplayers and people who go in the full garb. And so I don't know, it's a very fun time being around that kind of atmosphere. So I really love it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fair person, but
Mhm.
when I was a Cub reporter, one of my very first reporting jobs, I was covering Montgomery County for the Houston Chronicle's community section. And I did this feature piece about people who wanted to get married at the Texas Renaissance Festival. So I spent a whole day going around the festival, interviewing people who were about to get married or who had just gotten married at the festival, and they went all out. I personally was not dressed up. I was a reporter. I kept it professional, but they, had fairies and Robin Hood, and they were all dressed up. It was a whole thing. And then my former high school English teacher, she has been one of the performers playing Catherine of Aragon for years, and she loves it. And I think that is part, may he rest in peace, King George. But hopefully that joy that so many people get from dressing up and playing fantasy and having a good time, hopefully that will continue.
Growing up, did y'all know King George was the guy behind RenFest, or did we learn more about him with the HBO documentary, thrusting him into the national limelight?
I didn't know anything about him. I mean, I never went. Like I said, the first time I went was as a reporter covering this trend of Renaissance weddings at the festival. I didn't really know his story, but he definitely went viral last year when the HBO documentary came out.
And not for good reasons, by the way. Again, I watched that first episode and I was like, ugh. Literally, that was my response. After watching it, I was like, oh, I can't. This is just too much. I don't know. It was hard.
Yeah, I've heard the same kind of impression from a lot of the people who have even worked at the festival for some time. Obviously a documentary like that sometimes can be a little bit sensational, right? But at the same time, it was rooted in a reality that was felt by a lot of these people who lived it every year during those months of the festival.
All right, we'll find out what happens with RenFest and also the cause of death for King George. When we find out, we'll let you know. And of course, it'll be in Hey Houston as well. So subscribe to our newsletter, which is linked in our show notes. Lucio, what caught your eye this week?
Yeah, well, apparently there's a new study from the Kinder Institute talking about how people are feeling about Houston. In particular, nearly half of Houstonians have considered leaving the Houston area. I think about a fraction of that actually plan to uproot and leave the region. But I think it's interesting because, again, I think it speaks to a broader attitude that people maybe have towards Houston, myself included, because I mean, while I love Houston, it's also rife with hurricanes and natural disasters, and it's not exactly an easy place to love, you know.
Mhm.
But I think, I think this feeling is probably perpetuating amongst a lot of our fellow Houstonians.
As you mentioned, like the number of people who will actually want to move and will make that step is about 16%. And this comes from the Kinder Houston area survey. And Laura, you were actually at the unveiling of the survey and the luncheon. What were some of your big takeaways?
Yeah, I was there at the presentation of this survey. I know Rice University has been doing this survey for over 40 years. It's the longest running survey in the country of city residents. And, they didn't touch on this one that like almost half of Houstonians want to leave, secretly want to leave maybe, but can't, or decide to stay here. But I would say one thing that really stood out to me from the luncheon was something else of income inequality. That there's this growing income inequality in Greater Houston, and the director of the Kinder Institute, Dr. Ruth Lopez Turley, she expressed it so well. I was so impressed with her presentation. How like almost 40% of residents in Harris County, they are finding it difficult or just getting by financially. And almost half of residents in Harris County, if they have a $400 emergency, they have to borrow that money or they just can't pay that bill. So if you have a car accident, if you have a medical emergency, like they are really strapped. And I think that affordability
Yeah.
question, we've been talking about it on the show, and I think it's just going to be a bigger question that we have to answer as a city and leaders in the city, and we have to figure something out to this.
Yeah. We really do. And every year when this survey comes out, we talked about it earlier this week as well. It's one of my favorite things to just learn about what is happening, how Houstonians feel. And again, it's 10,000 Houstonians and people who live in Montgomery County and Fort Bend County this year as well that answered this. But every year, that question about the $400, it breaks my heart, right? Like, think about that. $400 if you had an emergency, as you mentioned, an accident, right? And your deductible is $500. You can't even pay that. Or you had a medical emergency, you can't pay that. And this is where it gets kind of tricky for me, right? Because as you look at that number, but then you look at other numbers, Lucio, in the Kinder survey, over 80% of residents across all three counties said that like the Houston area is still a better place to live. Yet it seems like the economic opportunity and inequality is something that is hurting a lot of people here.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it's probably being felt in other cities as well. Maybe worse, maybe better. I'm not entirely sure, right? But I mean, obviously, we're all feeling a squeeze,
Mhm.
economically speaking, and I think due to the fact that we're all different, in different tax brackets, economic statuses, etc. That squeeze, I think, is being felt a
Mhm.
lot harder in lower income families, especially here in Houston, right? I mean, if you're unable to pay a $400 surprise cost, I can't imagine if, how they would feel wanting to leave Houston potentially, but maybe not being able to cover the cost of actually uprooting their life and going somewhere else that may be able to better suit them, right?
They have a number. I don't have it handy, but the survey did find that a lot of people live here because they can't afford to live anywhere else. So
Oh, wow.
yes, like Houston isn't as affordable as it used to, but it still is, affordable for a lot of folks. And maybe they would like to move, but they just can't afford to move. Um, one other thought I just have to share about this survey is that, I mean, the Kinder Institute does such a phenomenal job. I mean, they get so many people to answer this survey. They have a huge response rate, and it's so in depth. And in our political climate right now, with research funding getting cut, it just makes me wonder of like, I think the Kinder Institute is has other funds, not from the federal government, but it just reminded me of the value of this research, right? Like, this is social science, but it is so important. And just, I love the research. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, this is the data that could potentially bring about change. I mean, obviously, this study's been put out yearly for, gosh, I don't even know how long at this point.
Yeah, over 40 years.
Yeah. And so it's valuable data, data that can hopefully be used to better the Houston area, right? And so, again, hopefully we'll continue to see these studies go out at a timely manner per year.
Yeah, and if you want to see the entire survey, I'll link it in our show notes. And again, there is a lot in there, but in my opinion, worth a read and spend some time with it because, as you mentioned, we get an understanding of what people are feeling in our area. Ready for a summer escape that feels like a hidden gem? You gotta check out Boerne, Texas. If you're dreaming of winding roads, shady creekside strolls, and sweeping hill country views, then Boerne is calling your name. Located just outside of San Antonio, Boerne is your gateway to nature without sacrificing comfort or style. And this town really shows off during the summer with live music, outdoor markets, car shows, and more. There's something happening every weekend. And their food is way beyond your average small town. They have chef-driven restaurants, craft breweries, wine bars, and more. And you can't enjoy a Texas hill country town without a charming, walkable downtown. Boerne also has that. Slow down and explore their locally owned shops, art galleries, and beautifully preserved buildings. They're also launching a new passport to help you map out the latest in sipping, dining, and shopping in Boerne. Start planning your trip at visitboerne.org. Boerne, Texas, an elevated hill country experience. You only have 2 more Sundays left to enjoy Jazzy Sundays in the Park at the Waterworks lawn at Buffalo Bayou Park. Jazzy Sundays in the Park has become one of my favorite events in H-Town because I get to sit back with my wife and take in some great jazz music while our daughters hang out with kids from across the city. It's truly a community event celebrating H-Town, and it's all free. Performances are from 5 to 7 p.m., so it's the perfect way to end your weekend on a high note and soak up Houston's vibrant culture and jazz heritage. You only have 2 more Sundays left to check out these great local musicians, so grab a blanket and some chairs and head to Jazzy Sundays in the Park for an afternoon of live jazz and community. Find the full schedule of performances at buffalobayou.org. All right, y'all, I'd like to head to Third Ward because right now residents are very upset about a building being demolished. And this comes as we reflect on the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's murder and legacy. And the reason this building is so important and why residents are so upset, this was the building that had the popular George Floyd mural, and it was demolished this week out of nowhere. Now, there was a fire and the building did suffer damage last year from that fire, but it was still up, it was still intact, and out of nowhere, the building is gone. Now, residents are reflecting on this, and I'd love to talk about this as well. Like, are we erasing history here, right? Because this was a mural that attracted a lot of people to come out, reflect on George Floyd's murder, where we are as a society now 5 years later, and now it's gone.
It's interesting to me because, I mean, I feel like just Houston as a city, maybe, I mean, no zoning laws, et cetera, like there's always a threat of an old historic landmark being turned into like a Trader Joe's, for instance, right? So, I mean, I kind of view this as maybe an extension of that. I remember like the River Oaks, for instance, not that it's super comparable, but the theater was in danger basically of being demolished after having been this like cultural landmark for like decades for the LGBTQ plus community here in Houston specifically. And so, I don't know, like I kind of view this as maybe more of the same from the city of Houston.
I agree with you on that point, Lucio. Like, Houston is not great about keeping our history, remembering our history. We love to tear things down. We love to build new. And I think for communities of color, it's like extra heightened, right? Like I'm thinking about, efforts to take bricks out of, Freedmanstown, on the other side of downtown. And, I think especially with George Floyd, one thing that really hit me with this news and this story is that there is the memory and the legacy of George Floyd, the man who was murdered by a white police officer in Minneapolis. And then there is Big Floyd, who was a Houstonian and some of his family is still here. And that memory is so personal. And Sarah Smith at the Houston Chronicle, she has some really great stories out, talking with some of his family members, recounting some of those really personal memories. And as she put it in her story, like for them, this memory is an act of defiance, in this struggle for greater civil rights and human rights. We saw this racial reckoning 5 years ago when he died, and it doesn't seem like we've made a whole lot of progress. I think a lot of people feel skeptical of how much progress we've made there.
Yeah. I'm in the skeptical bucket because, it felt like we were righting a lot of wrongs after his tragic murder. And it seemed like as a country, we were moving in the right direction, but it feels like the pendulum has swung back the other way. And, you think about companies that put in DEI policies, right? And government policies. And now those are all being undone from corporate side, from the Trump administration, right here, state leaders as well. And there's also like this disgusting rewriting of history about George Floyd. Anytime conservatives talk about them, because I was watching Isaiah Carey's show the other night, and there was a conservative commentator just like rewriting history and bringing up things that didn't happen. It seems like it's disgusting to me. And as we reflect, 5 years later, all of the positives are now, in my opinion, being undone.
Yeah, I think to that point, the pendulum swinging in the opposite end, opposite, I guess, extreme, if you will. I mean, we're seeing the Justice Department roll back like investigations into police departments, rolling back agreements with specific cities, specifically regarding their police departments as well. And again, like you mentioned, the DEI initiatives that were taking place at the government level and maybe state agencies as well, they're under threat from the federal government. Trump is saying that if you have DEI initiatives, you could be at risk of losing federal funding, right? And so we're seeing not just state agencies, government agencies, but also in the private sector, like you mentioned. I remember Target pulled back DEI initiatives, and I believe there is a boycott initiative online against that company. And so we're at an uneasy time, I think, right? The pendulum is swinging at the opposite direction, but there are people who I think are pushing it back towards where it came from.
Yeah, there is some really interesting data from the Pew Center for Research, that they did a big survey leading up to this 5th anniversary. And they did find that, Raheel, you're not alone, that Americans are more skeptical that the events in 2020 created lasting change. So there is a lot of skepticism. I want to give a recommendation for y'all. If you want to learn more about George Floyd, the person, who, Big Floyd was. He was also called Perry, or even Georgie. There's this really great book called His Name is George Floyd. And it was written by 2 journalists that I once upon a time worked with at the Miami Herald, Robert Samuel and Toulouse Olorunipa. In this book, they did a deep dive into his story and our American history, and it actually won a Pulitzer, and it's just phenomenal. And they did a lot of reporting right here in Houston to really tell a story of who George Floyd was. And I know that was important to his sisters in this latest piece from Sarah Smith as well. So wanted to share that with y'all.
I would definitely check that out.
I just also I want to like emphasize, I guess, the importance of like George Floyd's legacy in Houston, right? I mean, having been a Houstonian, but is also like after his death, after his murder, his funeral was here in Houston as well. I mean, Houston was among many cities across the country that saw protests in the wake of his murder. I remember reporting, I was just a photographer at the time. I didn't even think I would become a journalist at that time in my life. But that moment, being on the streets of Houston, taking photos, interviewing people to see how they felt about this monumental moment, right? It kind of changed the course of my life into wanting to become a journalist and tell these kinds of stories that matter. And then, going to his funeral to cover that, it was a multi-day process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember like so many national outlets were there at the funeral. And I mean, it was honestly kind of chaotic, but also there was so many lines of people wanting to pay their respects to someone who they didn't know, but represented something greater to them, something that could potentially bring about change. And so again, it just kind of makes me sad to see the pendulum swinging back now,
Yeah. And, just speaking about change, I want to read an excerpt from Sarah Smith's story, which you referenced, Laura, which is in the Houston Chronicle. And she wrote, George Floyd taught people they could unite and demand change, that their uproar could sculpt something tangible. So I want to leave you with that. And also, if you want to celebrate the legacy of George Floyd and what he meant not only to the city, but to the nation as a whole in terms of change, there's actually a George Floyd festival happening in Third Ward right now until Saturday. So this weekend. So if you want to learn more about that and go out there, I'm linking that in our show notes. H-Town really comes alive in spring, and especially in the heart of our city, downtown Houston. There's so much to do, so grab your crew and explore everything downtown Houston has to offer. From their vibrant parks to their sizzling food scene, and of course, those amazing free outdoor events all season long. Want to just gather the family and hang out like I enjoy doing? Downtown Houston has you covered. Head to Market Square Park or Trebley Park for kid-friendly games, movies under the stars, and so much more. To really be in the know, text downtown to 56512, where you'll find maps, the best parking spots, special events, and more. You can also find all of the fun and free events at downtownhouston.org. Spring is here, so come eat, play, and explore in downtown Houston. Get revived and energized in downtown.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
All right, y'all, let's get to our moment of joy. It's been a long week, but let's end on a high note. Lucio, kick it off.
So I love the Mission Impossible movies, right? We've been rewatching all of them over the last, weeks or so, just anticipation for the last one that's going to be coming out in, a few days now. And so I am excited to see that more IMAX screens are coming to Houston.
Yeah.
Houston Screenway Regal specifically is going to get an IMAX theater. And it's exciting, because I love movies and I love going to see it in person. And after the pandemic, obviously things got a little wonky with like at-home streaming and whether or not movie theaters were going to just flat out die. And so I'm excited to see that the investment in physical media and the physical movie theater experience seems to be alive and well, making a comeback after the pandemic.
Yeah, and more directors are shooting in IMAX as well. Christopher Nolan, by the way, he's doing his take on the Odyssey, and he's shooting that entire thing in IMAX. And for those of you who aren't familiar, IMAX is like the best way to watch a movie, right? The cameras are different. You just get so much more quality in the picture, and you have to have special screens. You have to have special projectors for this, and to hear that we're getting more at the Edwards Greenway Plaza, that is amazing, because that's where I go for IMAX movies.
I want to know, Lucio, are they also going to bring back the murals? like the
Ooh.
really cheesy movie murals of like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Like, that's what I want. Like, I don't care about the screen. I want the murals. Like, are they bringing those back?
I'm not sure. And I know they removed them during the upgrades to the theater a little while back, and I'm not entirely sure if there are plans to bring them back. I know they're trying to modernize the theater to bring it in line with like the Regal Edwards, I believe, at the Marquee, which already has an IMAX screen.
Yeah,
but I mean, we'll see. Fingers crossed, right? Because I think those little character quirks makes it really special.
Yeah. Well, when you go see a movie there, report back and let us know.
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Hey, y'all, speaking of Christopher Nolan, he was the popular director of the Dark Knight series. Comic Palooza is back this summer in the city of Houston. And I know you like cosplaying, Lucio, or you respect them. This is like the place to cosplay, by the way. So Comic Palooza is like this huge pop culture festival that happens at the George R. Brown Convention Center. And you can be a Batman fan like I am. You can be a comic collector, anime fan, or anything in between. This is where fans from all walks of life come to celebrate our love for pop culture and fandoms. And it is going down this summer. You can check it out June 20th to the 22nd and get tickets at comicpalooza.com/CityCastHouston. And you can see the full schedule of panels because they'll have celebrities there. They're going to have panels with them. They're going to have exhibitors on the floor. There is so much to do. There's activation, special attractions. This is the place to go. And it is just great people watching. So check that out. Again, that's comicpalooza.com/CityCastHouston. Hey, Laura, what's your moment of joy?
So my moment of joy is that this week marked a very special week for me here at CityCast Houston. On Tuesday, May 20th, I hit my official 1-year anniversary with the show and our newsletter, Hey Houston. So that was my moment of joy. Continues to be a moment of joy to be able to have these really important and fun conversations about our community, news, culture, all the good stuff. So yeah, that's mine.
Well, it's been so much fun working with you. I appreciate it. I tell you offline every time I get a chance to. I love working with you. I love working with this team. And I just want to share a quick story about Laura's first day at CityCast Houston. So Laura was supposed to start, and she did start right after the derecho. So like the power was out. Laura had no internet, and she still somehow logged on her first day at CityCast Houston. So a lot of people don't know that story, but it just shows you the dedication and love that she has for her job and for this podcast and our newsletter, Hey Houston. So I wanted to share that for sure, Laura, because that was so impressive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring as well for the appreciation of Laura, because we worked together in the past, actually, Houston Public Media. We crossed paths a little bit. And this was the beginning of my journalism career. And I always found her work very inspiring. And I always wanted to work with her hand in hand. We never really got a chance to, but,
here and there.
Now we're here.
And now we're here on the pod. So that's why we got to keep having you back. We love having you here.
Absolutely. I want to get to my moment of joy, and it's about 2 charitable stories that I saw that just made me so happy to be a Houstonian. And the first one is that the Covenant House opened their new state-of-the-art campus in Montrose, and the Covenant House helps youth experiencing homelessness and helps them rebuild their lives and focus on living independent lives, right? So they can make the best of their situation and do great things. But this new state-of-the-art campus was a $55 million project. It's going to help so many people across our city and make our city better. So I wanted to send them some love. And then the second one was seeing Ambassador Tillman Fertitta, Mayor Whitmire, and First Lady of Texas, Cecilia Abbott, give 66 wheelchair accessible vans to underprivileged children with disabilities. And y'all, the pictures and videos from that event made me tear up, right? Because seeing, these kids and families receive this life-changing gift was something I needed, like just as a human, to see that we're still doing some good stuff out there. And it was amazing. And it just made me happy, and it made me proud to be a Houstonian.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing, Raheel.
Laura, Lucio, thank y'all so much for sharing everything today. Had a lot of fun talking to y'all. It was a good conversation, so I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
And if y'all have thoughts, send us a note. Want to keep the conversation going.
That was Lucio Vasquez of the Texas Newsroom and executive producer Laura Isensee. All of the stories we talked about are linked in our show notes. All right, here's a Friday treat for you. We're giving away a one-night stay at Margaritaville Lake Resort Lake Conroe. And to enter, all you have to do is email me the word paradise to houston@citycast.fm. We're also doing a separate giveaway for a one-night stay on our Instagram page at CityCastHouston, so follow us there to learn more. Good luck. And don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by the Village School where executive producer Laura Isensee is chatting with Cassie Riddle about why families are making the switch to private school.
Hi there. I'm Laura Isensee, executive producer of CityCast Houston, and I'm here with Cassie Riddle. She's an enrollment officer at the Village School, and she's worked in private school admissions for almost 10 years. Cassie, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
I'm curious to hear what you're seeing at the Village School in terms of what are the factors driving families in Houston to switch from public schools over to private education?
So some of the biggest factors that I have seen from families that are looking to make the switch from public to private school would have to be the teachers and the constant turnover. So consistency, super important. Students in public school, I'm hearing, have had 3 to 4 different teachers throughout the year, having to rely on substitute after substitute. I've also heard about the classes having to merge and that making them a little bit bigger. The other thing I hear is about college prep. With the size of the caseloads for the counselors at public schools, it's very hard to get that individualized attention. So at Village, students are paired with a college counselor starting in their freshman year, and they really get to know them because they're with them for so long. And those college counselors also serve as an academic advisor to them, ensuring that they do choose the right classes that go towards whatever their academic and career goals are, and that they're fully prepared for college. The other thing I hear is safety. Families are deeply concerned about their children's safety at school and wanting to have a safe and secure environment. Unfortunately, the threats that we do hear about are very real and are starting to drive them to look elsewhere.
So it sounds like that safety, stability, really looking towards the future and getting that individualized support are driving Houston families. But what's keeping some of these families from making the switch? What are some of the barriers that you see?
The biggest barrier that I've seen so far has been the cost. And yes, it's true. Tuition is absolutely an investment in your child's future. And it's important to know if there's a return on that investment. And at Village, students this year, our seniors, have secured more than $55 million in college scholarships already. And that number is continuing to grow. It's grown a lot since last year as well. And it really does give them a good indication of their preparation for the next step. The other barrier that I've seen is the process itself. So private schools do require an application process, and having things such as teacher recommendations and transcripts already prepared should make that process a bit smoother to switch for success. And last would be perception. So sadly, private schools may not always have the perception of being the most inclusive. But Village is a non-denominational institution with a global community, and that really does provide a more inclusive environment.
And you mentioned the application process, and it seems like every year those applications, the whole process starts earlier and earlier. So for people who are interested, how can they make this switch? What would be some of the first steps you recommend?
Yeah, so we actually have a rolling admissions process at Village because we do understand that everyone's circumstances are different. Families join Village all throughout the year. So students are never the new kid for very long. several of our students have been the new kid themselves at one point or another. So families looking to join Village, all you've got to do is go to thevillageschool.com/switch, submit an inquiry, and schedule a tour with me. I'd love to show you around and give you some more information.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that y'all had a rolling admission. I feel like not that many schools do that.
Right.
What else would you say sets the Village School in particular apart from other private schools in Greater Houston?
So we are actually the number one most diverse private school in Houston. And that includes not just diversity in how our students look and where they come from. We have students from 90 plus different countries, but it's also diversity in our personalized curriculum. We have the IB diploma, we have a pre-med diploma, computer science, entrepreneurship. We very much operate like a small university. And with all the students that come to us, it also brings a diversity of ideas and thinking. So we're very, very proud to have that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing these details and helping change the perception of private schools. Cassie, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, check out thevillageschool.com/switch to learn more. We'll have that link for you in our show notes, so you're just a click away. And thank you for listening.
That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producer is Carleon Jones. Our newsletters this week were edited by Lizzie Goldsmith, Elizabeth Kama, and Brooke Lewis. Our executive producer is Laura Isensee, and I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos, with additional music courtesy of White Noisemaker, DM, and David Harris from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. We're off Monday for Memorial Day, but we'll be back on Tuesday with a look at who in Houston is getting rounded up in President Trump's immigration crackdown. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
Oh gosh, I think we have to go to low data mode.
Oh no, we lost Laura.
Can y'all hear me? I froze.